to answer any questions.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just curious if we'll see any change for kind of that hospitality, consistent with hospitality, being able to serve somebody one beer or one wine sort of a thing when they come in to get their hair cut or when they're at the art gallery or what have you.
Madam Chair, Councilmember Johnson, this section of state law would not allow any kind of service of alcohol without a license or with a license related. I should back up. This whole section of law only allows for temporary sales for nonprofit, charitable, religious, political, and then the brewers. So the changes we're proposing would not accomplish what I think you're asking.
Okay. So I think it's a positive change because I know we've talked about this too with community organizations and such, but I hope we can try to find a reasonable way to allow for providing somebody with a beer or some wine consistent, again, with hospitality, what you do if you welcome somebody into your own home, where that's not the reason they're there is to have a drink, but where it's just something that's being offered to them as a courtesy. So anything we can do to promote that. I know I hear from a lot of small businesses that say this is just one of those things, like we offer coffee and cookies and other, water and juice and other things to folks that, some people would prefer to have a glass of wine while they're shopping for a ring than coffee. So why can't we allow that? And I know you and I have talked about it, and I just hope we, the city, can do something to promote that, because I think it's something our small businesses are asking for. They say it's helpful. They say their customers appreciate it, and it seems reasonable to me.
All right. I'm not seeing any other comments. Essentially, this is saying that, cities are best able to make these determinations within good parameters of how to handle these temporary licenses. I mean, that's kind of the basis of it, right?
Yes, it is, Madam Chair. And we have to keep in mind that every alcohol license that we approve, it has to be endorsed and also approved by the State Alcohol and Gambling Division. Mm-hmm. So every one of these temps we send over there, and they stamp them and issue the license to the applicant.
Okay.
So that's why we have to follow the guidelines so closely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Bergman?
Madam Chair, council members, this concludes our presentations for the day. We're happy to stand for any questions. Otherwise, you can look for, at a future meeting, we will bring forward a more comprehensive set of recommendations with maybe new items and suggested tweaks to the legislative agenda and policy positions for markup in this committee. So.
Okay. All right. So I think with that, we will just receive and file the presentations that were made with the proposal. So I guess I will move to receive and file. Discussion, seeing none. All in approval, please say aye. 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 Opposed. And I'll say thank you very much to the staff who came to our committee, as well as our IGR team. And I want to say, too, we've had a process in place now for a few years of utilizing leads from multiple departments to both help spearhead presentations from their departments on ideas, but also participate in a process of helping make recommendations to the council of which policy proposals seem ripe and maybe meet other criteria for coming to the council. So I just want to thank as well all the folks that have participated in that process, because I know it has been a lot, and it takes a lot, sometimes multiple years, to just get that proposal to the right level of readiness, both with internal vetting at the city, but also sometimes waiting for when the politics align with helping our proposals have the best chance of success. So with that, I think we have one more item, and that is our regular updates on federal, state, and local agenda items. Mr. Ranieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Gene Ranieri, Director from IGR for the city. Yesterday, the House of Representatives passed a budget bill. It's called the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015. That bill now is over in the Senate and hopefully will be passed before next week, next Tuesday, because the debt ceiling expires on the 3rd. We're going to be in default. The House, what the bill does, it's a negotiated agreement between the White House and congressional leadership. It has it increases the spending caps. Remember back in 2011, we became familiar with the whole area spending caps and all the limits on what can be spent domestically and in defense. This bill increases those caps for defense and domestic spending. Each is allowed for this fiscal year we're now in $25 billion increase. In fiscal 17, each would be allowed to have an increase of $15 billion. How that would be accomplished is the appropriations committees in both the House and the Senate would make decisions on which programs should receive increased spending and appropriations. That process theoretically should be done by the 11th of December because that is the date the current continuing resolution expires. So in effect, there could be increased spending in many of the programs we work in as a city over the next 2 years. As you can tell, though, it's $25 billion in 16, $15 billion in 17, and then Congress goes back again to decide what happens in the next year or 3 years. In addition to that, there's additional funding for the military and also for the State Department. The debt ceiling has been suspended to March 15th, 2017. So in a sense, 2016, there will not be a discussion on the debt ceiling, nor should there be a discussion on how much to spend. Now, another thing that was done in this bill, this is really an omnibus bill. Medicare premiums were expected to go up from about $104 to $159, almost a 50% increase. Congress kept them flat, and how they're going to pay for that is a surcharge and also take a loan from general revenues. We don't know all the details on that. We'd like to get a written report to you once more details made available. And another way to offset this or to pay for all these budget increases is to extend for another year some of the mandatory cuts in Medicare, student loans, and agriculture. And what we're hearing, though, is the ag program may not be cut as much because it was in crop insurance, and some of the folks from the agricultural states were concerned about that. So we'll see what happens once it gets to the appropriation process. The other major cut or major revenue source is that the administration agreed to, and so did the Congress, to allow for sale of petroleum from strategic oil reserves of the country. So that's where we are right now. Once the Senate passes the bill, we'll get a written report to the Council and also try and figure out what would be some impacts on us, because since $25 billion additional funds will be available in fiscal year 2016, which already has started, there may be some opportunities for increases in some of the programs we work with. Madam Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. I was just looking around to see if there were some. I'm not seeing any right now.
And another item, Madam Chair, that legislative Congress did this week was both bodies extended the Transportation Reauthorization Act till November 20th. Many observers consider that to be a signal that they're working on an omnibus transportation bill that will try and pass before November 20th. What we are also hearing is that it'll be a 6-year bill, but it may only be funded for 3 years. So then the 2016 Congress will come back and figure out ways to fund the remaining 3 years of that.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing further questions, so I'll just say thank you again for that update. With that, I believe we have concluded with our business for today. And I always look over here to make sure I haven't forgotten something. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.